Hello everyone, this is Greg from ChemCore. In this video, we're going to be going through the primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary worksheet. If you haven't been able to watch the topic video for this concept, make sure to check in the description below. And if you haven't seen this worksheet, it's also in the description below. And if you haven't seen the answer key, it's also in the description below. Everything's absolutely free in the description below. Now, in this video, what we're going to do is specify what functional group is present and kind of categorize the position of the highlighted either functional group or the carbon. Now, let's remind ourselves what the rules are. So when we categorize carbons, we really focus on how many other carbons are we bonded to, right? If it's bonded to only one other carbon, we're primary. If it's bonded to two other carbons, we're secondary, so on and so forth. Now, for alcohols, as well as halides, so alkyl halides, but we'll just shorten it to halides, we're really looking at how many other, similar to the actual first rule of carbons, how many other carbons is the bearing carbon bonded to. So bearing meaning the carbon that actually holds the hydroxyl or holds the halogen. How many other carbons is that carbon connected to? And now for amines, that's the one that's slightly different, is how many carbons is the nitrogen bonded to. And so reminding ourselves of these rules is going to be useful going forward in this worksheet. Now, the first problem, we clearly have an amine, right? This is just nitrogen, nothing, no carbonyls next to it, so we definitely know it's an amine. And it's connected to only one other carbon, right over here. And so we know that this has to be primary. In the next problem, I'm kind of looking and I see this triple bonded nitrogen to the carbon, and I know that this is a nitrile. This is definitely a nitrile. And then you're looking at this carbon, right? We're trying to specify what this carbon is, and it's connected to two other carbons. And so we know that it's a secondary carbon. Now, the next problem, we have a carbonyl. We also have two oxygens, so it's either an ester or a carboxylic acid. This oxygen does have an R group, and so that means it's an ester. From the previous videos, ester says oo. And we're looking at this carbon to categorize it, and it's connected to two other carbons. So we know that it's secondary. And so from now on, I'm kind of too lazy to write the actual word primary, secondary, tertiary, quaternary. And so what I'm actually going to do is just write the number. The next problem, I do see these two oxygens again, and so I know it's either an ester or a carboxylic acid, but this OH makes it a carboxylic acid. And then I'm looking at this carbon, right, just to categorize it, and it's connected to two other carbons, and so I know that it's definitely secondary. In the next problem, I do see this carbonyl, but the carbonyl carbon is directly connected to a nitrogen, and so I know that it's an amide. And now we're looking at this kind of ending carbon, and it's only connected to one other carbon, and so I know it's primary. The next problem is interesting. I have a alcohol as well as a carbonyl, and so since we have that OH bonded to a sp3 hybridized carbon, we do have an alcohol. And now that carbonyl has nothing around it, but it is at the end of the chain, so we know it's an aldehyde. And now we're asked to categorize this alcohol, and it's the carbon bearing the alcohol is right over here, and it's connected to two other carbons, and so we know that the alcohol is secondary. In this next problem, I have a carbonyl that doesn't have really anything next to it. It is in the middle of the chain. The key goes into the middle of the lock, and so we know ketone. By the way, if you're unfamiliar with these phrases or catchphrases, make sure to watch my previous videos. I really give a lot of tricks on how to remember these functional groups a little easier, or things that helps me. And so maybe that'll be useful for you. And now we're asked to categorize this carbon. It's connected to two other carbons, so we know it's secondary. Now the next problem, we have this bromine, which is a halogen, and it's connected to an sp3 hybridized carbon, so we know it is an alkyl halide. And we're asked to categorize this bromine, and the carbon bearing the bromine, this one, is only connected to two other carbons. And so we know that this bromine is secondary. Now the next problem is similar, but instead of the bromine, we now have an hydroxyl. And this hydroxyl is connected to an sp3 hybridized carbon, so we know it is an alcohol. And the carbon, we're asked to categorize it. The carbon bearing the hydroxyl is connected to 2 other carbons, meaning that it has to be secondary. The next problem, we have oxygen kind of inserted into the middle of a carbon chain, and so it's an ether. And to categorize this ending carbon, it's kind of, connected to only one other carbon, so we know that it is primary. The next problem is an alkane. And so just a hydrocarbon, nothing going on, we know it's an alkane. Now this carbon, we're asked to categorize it, it's connected to 2 other carbons, and so we know that it is a secondary. The next problem, again another hydrocarbon, except now we have a triple bond, and so we know that it's an alkyne. And we're asked to categorize this carbon over here, and I see that it's connected to 2 other carbons, and so it's secondary. The last 2 problems on this page, I have a nitrogen that doesn't have a carbonyl or anything next to it, and so I know that it's an amine. And we're asked to categorize this amine, and it only has one other carbon connected to it, and so it is primary. And the final problem on this page, I have this triple bond, but don't get confused with alkynes, it has a nitrogen bonded to it, and so that we know that it's a nitrile. And we're asked to categorize this carbon over here, and so this carbon is connected to only one other carbon, so we know that it is primary. In the next problem, I do see these 2 oxygens, and so I know that it's either an ester or a carboxylic acid, but this R group definitely makes it an ester. And we're asked to categorize this carbon. This carbon is connected to only one other carbon, and so I know that it is primary. The next problem, I see again 2 oxygens, which means it's either an ester or a carboxylic acid, but this OH will definitely make it a carboxylic acid. This time, we're asked to categorize both these carbons. Now, the first carbon all the way on the left is only connected to one other carbon, so I know that it is primary, while this carbon is connected to 2 other carbons, so I know that it is secondary. Next problem, it has a carbonyl, and the carbonyl carbon is directly connected to a nitrogen, so we know that it's an amide. And we're asked to categorize this ending carbon. Now, this ending carbon is only connected to one other carbon, and so I know that it is primary. The next problem, I see a carbonyl, but it's at the end of the chain, so I know that it's an aldehyde. And we're asked to categorize this carbon. It is connected to 2 other carbons, so I know that it's secondary. And the last couple problems on this page, I have a carbonyl. Now, it is part of a ring, but we can just classify it as a ketone because it's kind of in the middle of a chain. And we're asked to categorize this carbon. It is connected to 2 other carbons, and so I know that it is secondary. Now, the next problem is a complete hydrocarbon. It does have a double bond, so I know that it's an alkene. We're asked to categorize 2 of them, 2 carbons this time. The first carbon all the way here is connected to 3 other carbons, so I know that it's a tertiary, while this carbon right over here is only connected to 2 other carbons, and so I know that it's secondary. The last 2 problems, I have a chlorine connected to an sp3 hybridized carbon, so I know that it's an alkyl halide. And we're asked to classify this alkyl halide, and so the carbon bearing this halogen is only connected to one other carbon, and so I know that it is primary. The next problem, I do have these 2 hydroxyls. Now, usually we would actually call this a diol, right? Because it's diol, alcohol. But I'm not going to be too specific with this name. I'm just going to call it an alcohol for now. I think that'll suffice for our purposes at this point in the course. Now, both of them are connected to sp3 hybridized carbon, so that completely makes sense. And we're asked to categorize both these diols, or both these alcohols. So the first alcohol is the carbon bearing the hydroxyl is only connected to 2 other carbons, so it's secondary. While on this hydroxyl, the carbon bearing it only is connected to one other carbon, and so it's primary. Now, the last couple of free response problems that we have before multiple choices, I have an oxygen in the middle of a carbon chain, so I know that it's an ether, and we're asked to categorize this ending carbon. Now, it is kind of not connected to any other carbons, but we can kind of consider this oxygen a carbon. Since this is like an ending carbon, we are going to categorize this as primary. The next problem, this is kind of a weird looking structure. Now, it's really just a hydrocarbon with a triple bond, and so I know that it's an alkyne. And to classify this ending carbon, it is connected to only one other carbon, so I know that it is primary. The next problem, I have a hydroxyl that is bonded to an sp3 hybridized carbon, so I know it's an alcohol. You can kind of call it cyclic if you want to. And to categorize this, this is the carbon bearing the hydroxyl. It is connected to 2 other carbons, and so I know that it is secondary. The next problem, I do have 2 functional groups. I have an oxygen that is in the middle of a chain, and so it's definitely an ether. But I also have a double bond, and so I know that it's also an alkene. And so we're asked to classify this carbon over here. Even though it is only technically connected to 1 other carbon, we consider these 2 bonds as kind of like, 2 carbons, and so we can classify this as secondary. In the last couple problems, I have this carbonyl. It is at the end of the chain, and so I know that it's an aldehyde. And we're asked to classify this carbon over here. It is connected to 2 other carbons, so I know that it's secondary. The next problem, I have this hydrocarbon. I do have a triple bond in the middle, and so I know that it's an alkyne. And I have this carbon right over here, and it's connected to 2 other carbons, and so I know that it is also secondary. The last 2 problems, I have this carbonyl. It might look confusing, but it's still at the end of this chain. This is kind of this carbon that holds that carbonyl, the carbonyl carbon, and it is at the end of the chain, and so I know that it's still an aldehyde. Okay, and we're asked to classify this carbon over here. It is connected to 3 other carbons, and so I know that it is tertiary. And the last problem, kind of similar to the problem we had before. We called it basically an alcohol, but we'll call it a diol to be specific. Now, I don't think you really have to know this at this point in the course. And to classify both these alcohols, they're only connected. These are the carbons that are holding the hydroxyl. They're only connected to 1 other carbon, and so both of them are primary. At this point, we're trying to do some multiple choice problems. So the second problem is asking us what functional group is present in the following compound. So I definitely see this bromine. And after all this practice, once you see a halogen, you should kind of recognize that it's an alkyl halide. Definitely not an alcohol, so we can eliminate B, D. Definitely not an amine as well. Now, you might be confused by these wedges and kind of dashes. Don't worry about it yet. We haven't learned it yet, and you don't need to know it for this problem. We need to classify this alkyl halide to really know the answer. And so this carbon that bears the alkyl halide is connected to 2 other carbons, and so I know that it has to be secondary. The next problem is asking us which is a tertiary alkyl halide. And so what we're going to do is just move, 1 by 1 and classify each alkyl halide. It's good practice. It's also going to help us kind of identify which one is the correct answer. And so the first problem, we have a chlorine. This is the carbon that bears the halide, and it's connected to only 2 other carbons, so this is secondary. So it's definitely not answer choice 1. The next problem, this is the bromine, so this is the halide. This is the carbon that bears that halide, and it's connected to 3 other carbons, so it's definitely tertiary. So this is probably our answer choice, but we'll do the rest for now just to make sure. Structure 3, this is the halide. This is the carbon that bears that halide, and it's connected to 2 other carbons, so it's definitely secondary. So we can eliminate structure 3. Now structure 4, this is that halide bromine. This is the carbon that bears it. It is connected to 1 other carbon, and so it's definitely primary, so we can eliminate structure 4. And this is structure 5. This is the halide iodine. The carbon that bears it is connected to only 1 other carbon, and so it's definitely not structure 5. And so the answer choice is structure 2. In question 4, we're looking for tertiary carbon atoms. In other words, we're looking for carbon atoms that are connected to 3 other carbons. And so, misspelled that. And so in the first problem, I have kind of looking at it, I have this carbon, and it's connected to 1, 2, 3 other carbons. Yeah, it's tertiary, right? This works. And so we can eliminate C and E because they don't contain answer choice 1. We know 1 is definitely going to be part of the answer. It might be the only answer, might be not the only answer. In structure 2, I have this carbon, but it's connected to 1, 2, 3, 4 other carbons, and so it's not tertiary. And this carbon is secondary, primary, and all these other carbons are primary. And so we know that they don't have tertiary carbon atoms. And so we can eliminate A, definitely, because not structure 2. Structure 3, all of these carbons are secondary. These 2 carbons are primary, and this carbon is connected to 4 other carbons, and so we know it's quaternary. which means we don't have any tertiary carbon atoms, so it's not structure 3, which we can kind of understand based on the answer choices left. Now in the next problem, I have this carbon, which is connected to 2 other carbons. I have this carbon, which connected to 1, 2, 3 carbons. It's tertiary. And this carbon as well, which also connected to 3 other carbons, and so it's also tertiary. And so structure 4 definitely works. And just to make sure, in our last problem, we have just these carbons, and all of them are either primary or secondary, and so definitely not answer choice 5. And so our correct answer is D. In the next problem, which functional group is present in the following compound? I do see this hydroxyl, right? And so this is definitely an alcohol, so we can eliminate ether, ester, but to find the actual answer, we have to classify it. And so to classify it, we're going to look at the carbon that holds the hydroxyl. It's connected to 3 other carbons, and so I know that it has to be tertiary. In the next problem, we're looking for the tertiary alcohol. In other words, the carbon bearing the hydroxyl has to be connected to only 1 other carbon. The first answer choice is not even an alcohol, so we can eliminate 1, right? Answer choice 2, this is the carbon bearing the hydroxyl. It's connected to 2 other carbons, so this is secondary. So it's definitely not answer choice 2. In structure 3, this is the carbon bearing the hydroxyl. It's connected to only 1 other carbon, and so we know it's primary. So it's definitely not structure 3. Structure 4 is not an alcohol, it's an ether. So we can eliminate structure 4. And then structure 5, we have this hydroxyl. This is the carbon bearing the hydroxyl, and it's connected to 3 other carbons. And so we know that the answer choice is structure 5. Question 7 is asking what functional groups are present in the following compounds? Well, I do see this triple bond between carbons, and so I know that we have an alkyne. I also see this hydroxyl, so I know that I have an alcohol. We do have to classify it. And so this carbon that bears the alcohol is connected to 2 other carbons, and so I know that it's secondary. And so my answer choice is A, alkyne and a secondary alcohol. In question 8, we're trying to find the tertiary carbon atom. And so answer choice 1, I see primary, secondary, secondary. This one is connected to 4 other carbons, so quaternary, and all the remaining ones are primary. So definitely not answer choice 1. So we can eliminate A, and we can eliminate all these choices because they're definitely not. Now, in answer choice 2, I see these carbons are secondary, 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 and these ending carbons are primary. And so I can eliminate answer choice 2. So definitely not B. In structure 3, every part of this ring is secondary except for this carbon, which is connected to 3 other carbons. And so I know that it's tertiary. And so answer choice 3 is definitely part of my answer, which I mean, you could narrow it down to kind of see, but let's just make sure with the rest. Now in answer choice 4, we have these carbons. Now they're all either primary or secondary, so it's not answer choice 4. In answer choice 5, I have primary, primary, secondary, secondary, but these 2 carbons are connected to 3 other carbons. And so they're both tertiary. And so we can choose answer C. Number 9 is asking what functional groups are present in the following compound. And so I do see a chlorine, which is connected to an sp3 hybridized carbon. So I know that I have an alkyl halide. I do have to classify it though. The carbon bearing that alkyl halide is connected to only 1 other carbon, so I know that it's primary. I also have this hydroxyl bonded to an sp3 hybridized carbon, so I know that it's an alcohol. And the carbon bearing the hydroxyl is connected to 2 other carbons, and so I know that it's secondary. And so I have a primary alkyl halide, secondary alcohol, and so my answer choice is D. In question 10, we're looking for which compound is a primary amine with a formula C5H13N. Now, well, let's look at it first and just figure out which ones are not primary amines, right? This one is definitely not primary. It's connected to 2 other carbons. This one is also definitely not primary. It's connected to 3 other carbons. So we can say that this is secondary, this is tertiary. And so we definitely can eliminate answer choice 1 and answer choice 4. So we know that these are all primary amines. What's left is, well, does it follow the formula? And so each of them have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 carbons. Well, do they have the right amount of hydrogens? And so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. This has 11 hydrogens, not 13, so we can eliminate answer choice 2. Answer choice 3, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We have 13 carbons, and so we know it's probably answer choice 3, but let's make sure we can, to eliminate, answer choice 5, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, also 11 hydrogens, so we can eliminate answer choice 5. So we're left with C. Question 11, we're asked what functional group is present in the following compound. I do see a nitrogen, no carbonyls next to it, so I definitely have an amine. So I can eliminate C, I can eliminate A. We do have to classify it though, and so it's connected to 2 other carbons, so I know that it is definitely secondary. So I'm left with the answer choice B. In the last couple problems, I do again have a nitrogen, no carbonyls next to it, so I definitely have an amine. So I can eliminate A, C. I still have to classify it. It's connected to 3 other carbons, and so it's definitely tertiary. So we're left with answer choice E. Question 13, we're asked which is a tertiary amine. Now, the easiest way to kind of do this is let's eliminate all the ones that aren't tertiary. Answer choice 1 is connected to 1 other carbon, so it's primary. We can eliminate 1. Answer choice 2 is connected to 1 other carbon, and so it's again primary. We can eliminate answer choice 2. Answer choice 3 is connected to 2 other carbons, so it's secondary. We can eliminate answer choice 3. 4 is tertiary. That works. And now answer choice 5 is only connected to 1 other carbon, so we can eliminate answer choice 5. So we're left with D. The next question is asking us what functional groups are present in nicotine, an addictive substance found in tobacco. And so I kind of see these 2 nitrogens that are alone. So definitely we have 2 amines. So we'll classify this one as an amine, this one as an amine. Now, you might be tempted to say that this is a phenyl or a benzene ring. It's not, right? Because of this nitrogen, it's no longer a benzene ring. And so we definitely do not have a phenyl or benzyl ring. So we can eliminate answer choice C. And now to find the answer, we kind of have to classify them. So this first amine is connected to 3 other carbons, so we know that it's tertiary. And this carbon, this nitrogen, is kind of confusing, right? You only see 2 other carbons, but if you said it was secondary, you'd actually be wrong. Because it has no hydrogens, this is kind of in the video I showed you the trick 3 minus the number of hydrogens. Since it has 0 hydrogens, it is also a tertiary amine, even though it's only connected to 2 other carbons. And so the answer choice is 2 tertiary amines. And our last problem, an example of a tertiary amine is, and so, well, let's go through it and find all, eliminate all of our non-tertiary amines. The answer choice 1 is connected to 1 other carbon, so it's definitely primary. We can eliminate answer choice 1. Structure 2 is connected to 2 other carbons, so we can eliminate answer choice 2. Answer choice structure 3 is connected to 1 other carbon, so we can eliminate answer choice 3. And structure 4 is connected to 1 other carbon, so it's primary. We can eliminate answer choice 4. And we're left with answer choice 5, but let's make sure we're connected to 3 other carbons. That totally makes sense. This is tertiary. And so we're left with the answer E. This concludes our worksheet on primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary. If you feel unfamiliar with these concepts, make sure to go back and watch the topic video. The link is in the description below. And if you want to see the worksheet or the worksheet answer key, also in the description below. And I'll see you guys in the next video.